Salmond.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I welcome your assent to the Chair once again. Your popularity is almost unrivalled in this House, Madam Deputy Speaker. But I have to say, popularity is not exclusive to the Chair these days. With this system of the secret ballot for the election of chairs of select committees across the parties, I can report I have never been more popular in this House with Conservative and Labour members. I am approached in all precincts of this House and asked for my views on a whole variety of things. Never have I been in a position of being able to dispense such wisdom. Members whose names I don't know are approaching me. People who I didn't even know are members are approaching me. Can I just say to the honourable member for Briggle Gould, I do hope he's not standing for a chair of a select committee. Well, that's good, because he's a man of independent mind, but unfortunately wayward independent mind. The reason that the Health Committee has matters which affect Scotland is because through the Barnett formula. And through the Barnett formula, what happens in terms of finance for the health service in England has knock-on effects for Scotland, for Northern Ireland, for Wales. And I have to say, maybe I didn't catch the honourable member correctly. Did he say served on the last Health Committee? Then I do find it very strange that he didn't realise, as the honourable member for Northern Ireland pointed out, that there were implications and issues which affected Northern Ireland on the last Health Committee. It must have been taken absent without leave during the proceeds. Otherwise, he would have known that. I'll give way to the honourable member.
I thank him for calling me wayward. I don't know whether that's a compliment or not, but that's exactly the point I was making, of course, is that actually, yes, the matters do affect other parts of the United Kingdom, although our business is primarily English, but for the same reasons, English members of Parliament have an absolute right to sit on the Scottish Affairs Committee, because the matters of the Scottish Affairs Committee affect my constituents in the same way.
I once heard the Barnett formula described as being like the Slavic-Holstein question in European politics. That is, three people ever understood it. One's mad, one's dead, and I've forgotten. But I'll try and remember enough of it to allow the honourable member to understand how the Barnett formula works. Is additional public spending on health, for example, in England, then has a knock-on effect to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. The reverse does not apply. It's not a question of allocating Northern Ireland and then reverse allocating England. Of course, it is true that I am certain if the honourable member, move on where? Well, luckily the honourable lady is on the front bench, so therefore won't be standing for chair of one of these select committees. Otherwise, she'd have done her chances no good whatsoever. I would say the Treasury bench should behave better in these debates. You should be setting an example to your new members, not cavorting about like some demented junior minister. Behave yourself, woman. There is the point that my honourable friend from Perth asked me to say a few words in support of the argument he was putting forward. I hardly think it's necessary in this sense that he has put it forward very forcibly indeed. At a time when the government is tinkering with the idea of evil, of having English votes for English MPs, at a time when it's suggested they're going to manipulate the standing orders of this House, perhaps to create English-only MP committees, it is going to damage their argument, perhaps irreparably, if they stuff the Scottish Select Committee with a majority of English Conservative MPs. Can I say to the Conservative Party, if they wanted to have English Tory or Conservative MPs on the Scottish Select Committee, then they should have gone to the trouble of electing more than one in the recent general election. Or alternatively, they should demote immediately the Secretary of State for Scotland, make him a backbencher and exile him to the Scottish Select Committee. I say to the whip, wouldn't it not? I'm strongly tempted, but your front bench wants me to move on. I say to the whip, just think of all the problems that are going to be avoided, having to exile hapless honourable members and put them on the Scottish Select Committee, if indeed he accepts the wise advice of the honourable member for Perth and does not try to gerrymander the Scottish Select Committee with a majority of English Conservative members of Parliament. I know that the Leader of the House...
Order! I know that the Right Honourable Gentleman is used to being heard and has a voice which is normally heard. He mustn't be drowned out. Alex Salmond.
I think there's only a remote chance of the Conservative Party drowning out the Scottish National Party in this Parliament, Madam Speaker. I would say to the honourable member, I know he's so keen, but I'm going to extend to him the same courtesy that generations of his front bench extended to me by not giving way to him on this occasion. I'm making an argument that the Select Committee for Scotland, as it has been for some substantial time, should have at least a majority, preferably all Scottish MPs on it. And if we reform or reconvene the Scottish Grand Committee, then of course that should also be composed of Scottish MPs. If that is not to happen, and I know the Leader of the House will give us an indication, then I say to the Conservative benches, then any argument whatsoever for their plan to have English-only votes and English-only committees will be fatally undermined if they are not prepared to extend the same courtesy to Scotland. So an indication from the Leader of the House that this is actually what's going to be done will be greatly appreciated, and I'm sure, well, I was going to say perhaps we'll do something to restore the Conservative parties and thoughts. It won't do that. It would take a lot more than that to do it, but at least it will stop the Conservative Party declining any further from the historic low they reached 3 weeks ago in Scotland.
Mark Mingus.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. If I could take this opportunity to welcome the Honourable Gentleman for Gordon in his place. Right Honourable Member, sorry, you know, sort of a former First Minister. Well, as a former First Minister, he should appreciate that in this chamber and in this House, we do debate and we do take interventions. And it's not like the Scottish Parliament, where you stand up, you speak, and nobody is allowed to intervene on you. That is not how we do things in this House. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the point I wanted to make was a valid one. And that is, I served on the Scottish Affairs Select Committee in the last Parliament. And it was a great privilege to do so. It was a great privilege to do so. But again, the honourable gentleman from a sedentary position cannot keep control of his own actions. But I served in that Scottish Affairs Select Committee. We did deal with matters both relating to Scotland and Scotland's place in the United Kingdom. But the one person who wasn't there was the SNP. So you didn't take up your seat on the Scottish Parliament. Well, in the great tradition of the SNP, no, Angus, I will not take your intervention. The SNP did not take up their seats, Madam Deputy Speaker. So it's a bit rich. It's a bit rich for you to come to this.
On a point of order, Mr. Angus. Brendan McNeill.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. There were particular consequences, the particular reasons why the SNP did not take their seat in the last Scottish Affairs Committee, and they were to do with the behaviour of the then chairman of that committee.
I fully appreciate the point that the honourable gentleman is making, but he will appreciate just as well that it's not a point of order for the chair to deal with. At the moment, I'm quite certain there will be many times in debate over the next few months when the honourable gentleman will have the opportunity to make the point which I know he seeks to make. Mr. Mingus.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The point is an important one. You cannot come to this chamber tonight and demand a majority when in the last Parliament and you did have a seat and you didn't exercise that right to speak for Scotland on that committee. You cannot, Madam Deputy Speaker, have your cake and eat it. So if you wanted to be on that committee in the last Parliament, why didn't you exercise your right to take up your seat? Why come here tonight and try and pull the wool over people's eyes? No, in the good traditions SNP, I will not take your intervention. So you have to realise tonight that I want, as a Scot who represents an English seat, to do the right thing by the Scottish Affairs Select Committee. But please don't come here and give us all the heavy guilt trip about if you don't have a majority of Scots on the committee, you're letting Scotland down. In the last Parliament, you had a seat, You didn't take it up. Maybe you were letting Scotland down. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, I will leave that point to rest.